What if I told you Moses once had an heir, a son poised to inherit a divine legacy, who vanished from Scripture like a ghost? Not by accident, but by design. Gershom, Moses' firstborn, mentioned in Exodus, then erased. No lineage, no legacy, only silence. Why would ancient scribes erase the bloodline of a prophet who spoke face-to-face with God? What if shadowy councils, stretching across continents, conspired for centuries to bury his truth? Some scholars whisper it was no mistake. It was a purge, a calculated move to control faith itself. Today we reveal how Gershom's disappearance shook the foundation of Abrahamic religions, and why powers beyond temple walls and royal courts feared his story. We'll dive into forbidden texts. We'll unearth rituals hidden beneath desert sands. And we'll expose a secret so explosive, it rewrites everything you thought you knew about Moses. The truth they silenced begins now. To understand why Gershom was erased, we must travel back to Moses' fractured world. Egypt, 650 BCE, a once mighty empire crumbling under foreign invasions and internal revolt. Here, Moses was no ordinary shepherd. He was a prince of Pharaoh's house, and through marriage, a Midianite heir. Midianites held sway over the incense and copper trade routes, lifelines of the Bronze Age. When Moses wed Zipporah, daughter of a Midianite high priest, it was not a love story, it was geopolitics. Their firstborn, Gershom, carried three bloodlines: Egyptian royalty, Hebrew liberation, Midianite mystic authority, a trifecta of power. After the Exodus, new forces rose. Aaron's Levite priests cemented religious authority in Canaan. They demanded purity, no foreign ties, no divided loyalties. Yet Moses' own family defied this. Zipporah performed Midianite rites. Gershom, he was neither purely Hebrew nor purely Midianite. His name meant stranger there, a permanent outsider. Early scriptures honored Gershom. Exodus shows him standing beside Moses during Sinai's revelations. But later books, Deuteronomy, Joshua, erase him. Why? Because his existence threatened the Levites' new order. Zipporah's ritual, seen in Exodus 4:24-26, saved Moses' life, a foreign fire rite. If a Midianite woman could channel divine protection, how could Levites claim exclusive holiness? Then came King Josiah's reforms. In 621 BCE, while digging under Jerusalem's temple, his priests discovered a radical Torah scroll. This version purged all non-Levite traditions, including Moses' Midianite ties. Gershom's lineage? Too dangerous. It hinted that divine truth flowed beyond Levite control, perhaps preserved by Zipporah's kin across the Red Sea. But isolation could not fully shield him. What secret did Gershom carry that spurred priests, scribes, and even an Ethiopian monarch to conspire against him? Imagine Sinai's wind whipping across jagged rocks. A young boy, half in Egyptian linen, half in Midianite cloth, stands beside his father as thunder splits the sky. A promise of a covenant not just for one tribe, but for many. Aaron's priests feared that promise. They needed Canaanite warlords to conquer lands. These warlords demanded pure Hebrew allegiance. Gershom's dual identity was anathema. Meanwhile, rumors swirled of a Kushite wife. Miriam accused Moses' wife of being Kushite, an insult laced with political poison. Some whisper Zipporah was of Kushite royal blood, linking Gershom not only to Midian, but to ancient Ethiopian nobility. If true, Gershom was heir not only to Sinai's law, but to a Kushite throne, a threat on two fronts. So the Levites and a Kushite king formed an unholy alliance. They would bury Gershom's line, they would erase his tabernacle, they would destroy his legacy. But a remnant survived. In core explanation, we will uncover that forbidden covenant. We will explore the night blood stained the sands. We will reveal the dynasty that whispered in the shadows for centuries, and the truth it kept hidden from the world. Gershom didn't simply vanish. He was exiled for embracing a power that terrified priests and kings alike. To understand why, we must decode a ritual hidden in Exodus. Remember Zipporah's act in Exodus 4:24-26? It wasn't just saving Moses. Some scholars now believe it was a Midianite fire rite, blood used to call down divine protection. Carvings near Petra show priestesses performing identical rituals under a canopy of stars. For Levites, that was heresy, salvation coming from a foreign woman's hands. But Gershom went even further. Fragments of a forbidden text, known today as Sefer Hamidian, reveal he mastered both his father's Levite rites and his mother's star rituals. Imagine it, Moses' heir of Sinai's law, invoking desert spirits under a moonlit sky. For Aaron's priests, that hybrid faith was dynastic poison. Here's where geopolitics ignite. Midian controlled Earth's richest copper mines, veins of power in the Bronze Age. Control those mines and you control armies, chariots, plowshares. Moses' alliance with Midianites gave Hebrews access until his death. With Gershom as Zipporah's proxy, he could have commanded those mines himself. Levites needed Canaanite warlords to conquer lands. These warlords demanded pure Hebrew loyalty. Gershom's dual identity, unforgivable. Meanwhile, rumors swirled of a Kushite wife. Miriam's rebuke in Numbers, calling Zipporah a Kushite, was no accident. Some whisper Zipporah was of Kushite royal blood. If true, Gershom wasn't merely Midianite royalty. He was heir to Cush's throne, a direct threat to both Egyptian rivals and emerging Judahite powers. So Gershom fled, far from Sinai's winds, far from Levite eyes, not to obscurity, to sanctuary. Ethiopian tradition calls him Abrahamic. He arrived with rods of power and tablets written by lightning. Those might have been Moses' staff and the stone tablets of Sinai. But what Gershom built was dangerous. Near Aksum, ruins match descriptions of what locals call Gershom's Tabernacle. Unlike Jerusalem's temple, it faced both Sinai and the North Star, the same star that rises above Mecca. Archaeologists who've seen its foundations report altars stained with bull's blood and myrrh resin, a fusion of Hebrew sacrifice and Midianite incense. Gershom's Tabernacle, a faith beyond tribes. Now the conspiracy grew darker. In 621 BCE, during King Josiah's reforms, Levite priests discovered a new Torah scroll in Jerusalem's temple. This version scrubbed out anything non-Levite. Moses' Midianite ties were gone. Gershom's lineage erased. Some say those priests sent envoys south to retrieve stolen relics. Early Ethiopian chronicles speak of desert dwellers demanding what was taken. The envoys infiltrated Gershom's tabernacle and found not relics, but a testament, a scroll called the Book of Thrones, purportedly dictated by Moses to Gershom. It listed all his heirs, Hebrew, Midianite, even Kushite, and declared God's covenant belonged to strangers in strange lands. If this became public, the Levites' monopoly on holiness would collapse. Judahite king's divine right would crumble. So they struck a dark bargain. Levite priests and an Ethiopian monarch erase Gershom's line, destroy his tabernacle, obliterate his book. Blood would seal their pact. But what happened to Gershom's children? How did that scroll vanish? And where does the tabernacle's legacy live on? In part 2 of Core Explanation, we will reveal the massacre, the Night of Falling Stars. We will trace Gershom's youngest son, Eliezer, and the sacred scroll into the tunnels beneath the shrine. We will follow the ghost dynasty that survived as Beta Israel in Ethiopia's highlands. This covenant was forbidden because it shattered every assumption about who could hold God's promise. It insisted all who walk the path of justice, Hebrew, Midianite, Kushite, carry the covenant. Levites and kings learned the hard way. When faith transcends bloodlines, power trembles. The pact was sealed in blood. Levite agents and Ethiopian warriors surrounded Gershom's community near the tabernacle ruins. One Ge'ez Codex simply calls it the Night of Falling Stars. They slaughtered every adult male, burned the tabernacle, shattered the altars. But Gershom's testament and his direct heirs vanished into the night. How? Some point to the Midianite priestesses, Zipporah's spiritual sisters. They knew secret tunnels beneath the shrine, carved centuries earlier when Midianites mined copper. As the massacre raged above, they whisked Gershom's youngest son, Eliezer, and the sacred scrolls into darkness. For 3 centuries they hid. Guardians passed down fragments of the Book of Thrones. Its core revelation, earth-shattering. Moses never intended a single priestly caste. The covenant belonged to the willing heart, Hebrew, Midianite, Kushite, anyone who walked the path of justice. Aaron's line, merely first among teachers, not sole inheritors. This was more than theology. It was a geopolitical bombshell. The Book of Thrones named Gershom's line as keepers of Moses' staff of sovereignty, a divine mandate to arbitrate between nations. Prove it, and you dissolve Levite authority in Jerusalem. You challenge Kushite kings claiming divine right. No wonder empires risked everything to bury it, but the guardians adapted. By 400 BCE, they emerged, not as Hebrews, but as Beta Israel in Ethiopia's Simeon Mountains. They practiced a hybrid faith, ark veneration like Jerusalem, combined with lunar festivals from Midian. And they guarded a secret, a second ark, woven from acacia wood and copper, housing Gershom's testament and Moses' staff. For centuries they thrived, in remote villages perched on jagged peaks. Their scroll fragments survived in oral psalms, passed from mother to daughter, father to son. They maintained traditions that clashed with both Jewish and Christian orthodoxy, and they believed all who seek justice, regardless of blood, carry the true covenant. But a new threat loomed. In the 10th century CE, a Solomonic monarch vowed absolute religious unity. His court chronicles speak of a false tribe with counterfeit relics seducing the highlands. Whispers say Jerusalem's priests whispered in royal ears, branding Beta Israel heretics. So the Beta Israel faced extermination. Their villages were razed. Their ark disappeared into legend. The survivors scattered, some to remote highlands, others along Africa's coasts. Yet rumors persisted. Desert nomads spoke of keepers of the staff, moving deeper into Africa, echoing a saga written in stars. Some researchers tracking oral histories believe fragments of Gershom's testament resurface centuries later, influencing a major Abrahamic movement's view of universal priesthood. When travelers documented Black Jewish communities in medieval Yemen and Egypt, they noted practices unlike any in Jerusalem: ark veneration under a full moon, psalms in ancient Ge'ez, Midianite fire rituals at dusk. This is the silenced truth. Moses' vision through Gershom was radically inclusive. The desert covenant wasn't confined to temple courts. It lived wherever people sought liberation with open hands, and that threatened every power structure built on exclusive access to the divine. So why purge Gershom? Not because he was irrelevant, because he was too dangerous. His existence proved faith's roots were deeper, wider, and far more mysterious than any priesthood dared admit. His disappearance wasn't an edit, it was a spiritual coup. But the story did not end in ashes. In hidden synagogues carved into basalt cliffs, Beta Israel elders whispered of the staff of Moses passing from hand to hand, an heirloom of hope. Some say traces of that staff survive today, bearing cryptic carvings in ancient Hebrew and Ge'ez. And what of Eliezer, Gershom's son? Legend claims he adopted a new name, Azariah of the Highlands. He taught children to read from fragments of the Testament, fragments encoded in songs about desert winds and star alignments. One 16th century traveler wrote of meeting an old Beta Israel priest with a copper-bound scroll. He spoke of a prophet's son who walked with angels under 1,000 stars. He said the covenant belongs to wanderers, to strangers, to all who hunger for truth. These echoes reached medieval Europe. Some scholars now argue that 12th century mystics in Spain, Abraham Abulafia and his circle, accessed Beta Israel teachings through Jewish merchants. They borrowed the idea that mystical union with the divine is open to every soul, not just Levites. Centuries later, as Ethiopian Jews emigrated to Israel, they carried fragments of that legacy: rituals, melodies, parchments. In the 1970s, Israeli archaeologists stumbled upon clay shards near Wadi al-Jarf containing Ge'ez-like inscriptions, perhaps scribbles by wandering Beta Israel emissaries. Today, Beta Israel communities in Israel and Ethiopia quietly celebrate a hybrid festival on the night of a full moon, relic of Gershom's star rituals. They light incense, recite psalms in Hebrew and Ge'ez, and spin a copper staff around a modest tabernacle replica of acacia and horn. The stubborn flame of tradition defies every attempt to snuff it out. It insists true covenant cannot be confined. It breathes wherever seekers defy purity tests and shelter banished truths. So when you read Genesis or Exodus, remember, Gershom's disappearance was not an accident. It was a battle over who has the right to approach God, a conflict over whether faith belongs to bloodlines or to strangers in strange lands. Levites and kings conspired. Priests and scribes wrote false histories. But the spirit of Gershom lives on in Beta Israel psalms, in carved tunnels, in whispered traditions under African skies. Their message remains: all who walk with justice, no matter their heritage, carry the true covenant, and that scares every institution built on exclusion. Gershom's erasure isn't just an ancient footnote. It reflects struggle we face today, when power silences voices challenging rigid systems. His legacy, however, offers startlingly modern lessons for anyone seeking truth. Insight 1. Hybridity threatens hierarchies. Gershom's fusion of traditions exposed a timeless pattern. Systems demanding purity fear bridges. From medieval councils burning heretical texts to modern institutions dismissing interdisciplinary research, blended knowledge breaks monopolies. Ask yourself, where does your worldview reject synthesis because it unsettles familiar power structures? Insight 2. Suppression fuels innovation. When Levites raised Gershom's tabernacle, his guardians didn't surrender. They went underground. Literally, they embedded sacred rites into portable forms, oral poetry, woven symbols, moonlit rituals. Today, marginalized communities harness similar ingenuity, coding languages as modern gaius, digital archives as impromptu copper arcs. The lesson? Censorship sparks creative resilience. Your suppressed truth might be awaiting its tunnel moment. Insight 3. The outsider carries the covenant Gershom's name meant stranger there. The testament he safeguarded declared God's promise belonged precisely to those outside tribal walls. This isn't a metaphor. Diaspora studies show that outsider perspectives often preserve core truths better than insulated centers. Whether it's Beta Israel safeguarding Sabbath traditions lost in Jerusalem, or immigrant families retaining ancestral wisdom eroded in their homelands, your otherness may be your greatest spiritual authority. Actionable steps. Reclaiming Gershom's legacy today. Question the silence. Next time you read scripture or history, ask, who is missing? Whose lineage was redacted? Trace one erased voice, a woman, foreign ally, dissenter. Their absence often guards power secrets. Build your tabernacle, create a portable sanctuary for forbidden truths. Journal, digital vault, oral tradition. Like Gershom's guardians, make it resilient, adaptable, and multi-voiced. Embrace sacred hybridity study, two seemingly opposed traditions, e.g., Kabbalah and Sufi mysticism, quantum physics and indigenous cosmology. Note where they converge. That intersection terrifies monopolies of truth. But be warned, systems still punish boundary crossers. An early Ethiopian monarch exiled Gershom's heirs. Some governments today silence journalists revealing inconvenient fusions of faith and science. Remember, the guardians survive by network, not fortress. Forge alliances across tribes. Gershom's greatest secret wasn't lost. It's this: true power grows where roots drink from many wells. Your synthesis of traditions, identities, truths is not heresy. It's the unbreakable staff. Plant it. We began with a ghost, but Gershom was no phantom. He was the living key to Moses' unfinished revolution, a faith without borders, where covenant flowed like desert rain, freely and fiercely, for all. His erasure was no scribal error. It was a calculated strike by temple and throne against a truth too explosive. That divine authority belongs not to bloodlines or institutions, but to those who bear the staff of justice wherever they wander. This pattern repeats. When a Solomonic monarch crushed Beta Israel, when councils burned apocryphal texts, when digs near Midian's copper mines are abruptly halted, the target remains the same. The memory that Moses' heir built a tabernacle for outcasts. Why? Because inclusive faith dismantles empires. Yet Gershom's testament lives on, in Ethiopia's whispered psalms, in Bedouin star lore echoing Zipporah's rites, in seekers today fusing science and spirit. His legacy asks, what hybrid truth are you guarding? What forbidden synthesis could heal our fractured world? We walk Gershom's path every time we reject purity tests, every time we shelter banished truths. We rebuild his tabernacle, stone by stone, soul by soul. If you found this video insightful, please like it and leave your comments below. Subscribe and join our next investigation, the Underground Ark Network, how secret keepers shaped 3 religions. The sun they vanished was the future they feared. Carry it. Thank you for watching.